Well, welcome. We are glad that both of you guys are joining in on the training today. My name is Becky Woods. I'm the sales manager here at Sentier. And then I also have Diana Wells on, who is our product specialist. So please feel free to ask any questions. We feel like any question is applicable because we want to make sure that you understand the monitor and everything it can do. So no question is a stupid question in my book. So first we will go over the Vetcorder Pro, and then once we're done with that, then we will go over the Doppler. So what you should have in your Vetcorder Pro box is you have the monitor, which is surrounded by the red hard plastic case. There is one SpO2 lingual sensor, and that is the little clothespin type clip that can be used on the tongue, the lip, the prepuce, the vulva, depending on what type of patient that you're working with. There is a 2-lead ECG, and that is the little cable with the red and white circles, and then you attach the ECG clips to those. So these are the silver duckbill clips, and those work better if you're working with a traditional type fur, which is a shorter in length. And then there's also a blue pair, which has the little lip on the inside, so it's a little bit more grippy. So that tends to work better if you are working with a long-haired cat, or if you have a dog or an animal that has a thick, furry, or a heavy undercoat. So we always recommend to use plenty of alcohol at the site where you're attaching the clips. And then there is a temperature cable, and that's the little spaghetti type wire with the black tip. You can use that either rectally or in the esophagus. So I would decide which end that you guys are going to work with and make sure everybody knows that. Some clinics will also get an additional temperature cable, and then they'll have one labeled for each end. So that is something that you can do as well. There is a black 1 meter extension cable that's called a tri-parameter extension cable. That cable can be used to lengthen any of your parameters with the Vetcorder. So let's say you're working with a Great Dane and you needed your ECG cable to be longer. You would plug that black extension cable into the ECG slot, and then you would plug the ECG cable into the other end, so it will make it 1 meter longer. So you can use that with the SpO2 or the temperature cable, but most people tell me they use it with the ECG. Now you also have a white charging USB cable and a cube. That cable is specific to the Vetcorder. So I would put a little flag tape on it and label that it is for the Vetcorder monitor, so that you don't have team members that get that mixed up with a cell phone charger or another piece of equipment, because that happens quite frequently. So the Vetcorder will last on a charge for 12 hours. And then if it were completely dead, it takes 3 hours to recharge it. So with your cell phone that it's better if you don't charge it until you really need to. That's the same way with the Vetcorder. So most people tell me that their comfort label is when it gets down to maybe like 20 or 25%, that then they will charge it. So at the end of the day, if you have your monitor turned on and you're at that home screen, which displays the 5 icons, if you hit the orange house button once, that will take you over to a screen that shows you the date, the time, and the battery level. So there you can decide whether or not you want to charge it any further. So then if you just hit that orange button, that gets you back to what we call the home screen. So now if you wanted to take an ECG recording, you would select the heart icon, And then it's going to take you over to a screen where you can select whether you want to do lead 1 or lead 2. And that's basically for how you have your clips hooked up or your orientation. So I'm going to select one of those. And then I am going to put the white clip on a finger on my right hand and the red clip on a finger on my left hand. If you guys want to go ahead and do this too, so that you've got a recording that we can transfer over. Once you start seeing that ECG tracing on the screen, you should also see a little arrow at the bottom. I'm going to select that arrow now, and now I'm taking an ECG recording. So you'll see a status bar that will pop up after you select that arrow, and it will be filling in as you're taking your ECG recording. So your ECG recording can either be 30, 60, or 90 seconds, depending upon what you choose in the settings. And we'll go through that later. So most people tell me they do 30 seconds, but it's totally up to the clinic and the doctor and what you want to do on your end. So now I've got my completed reading. Once I have a summary that pops up after it's done analyzing, I'll be able to hit my orange button and then go back to the main screen. So I am going to select now my stethoscope in the lower left-hand corner. That's going to take me over to a page where it says guest, or I can name a particular patient. Now, most people tell me for time's sake that they just select guest. You can go in and create a named patient, and there you can select whether it's a cat, a dog, or a horse, and then you can type in a physical name, and then you can also put in some identifying information if you choose. So I'm going to select guest, and then it's going to tell me to please hook up my sensors to a patient. I'm going to put my SpO2 sensor on my finger. Once the monitor starts recognizing that it's doing a recording, you're going to see that information moving across the screen. So I have my ECG on top, I have my Pleth waveform on the bottom, and then I have my numerical data on the right-hand side. I've also got that status bar that's moving across the screen that's letting me know that I'm doing a recording. So the question I always get is, well, why do I want to take a daily check recording, Becky? Well, it does provide evidence that you monitored during surgery. If you see an issue that comes up, then you would have a recording of that, and you could send it to a veterinarian or a specialist to take a peek at. You could also send that reading to the pet parent, because some of the younger people today want to see those type of things. Or you could also attach it to your patient record in your practice management software. So those would be the main reasons why you'd want to take a daily check recording. Now I am going to select the monitor vitals, which is in the center part of my screen. When I do that, that turns on my Bluetooth so that I'm able to pair it with either a phone or a tablet. So there's two Vetcorder apps that are available for an Apple or an Android phone or a tablet, and one person can be connected to the Vetcorder at a time. So I am going to go on my iPhone and I am going to look for my Monitor Vitals app, which is the black tile with the neon, Pleth waveform, and ECG. So when I do that, I get a little pop-up that says, which Vetcorder do I want to connect to? And I am going to choose my monitor. And now I've got a complete mirror of what's going on my cell phone is being displayed on my Vetcorder. So on the top, I've got my ECG. On the bottom, I've got my Pleth waveform, and then my numerical data is on the right-hand side. Well, how could I use this as applicable in your clinic setting? So let's say you're done with your procedure and the doctor needs to step out of the area and go make a phone call or go check on another patient while the technicians are recovering with the patient. So they could walk away with that cell phone, and as long as they're within 30 to 50 feet of that particular patient, they'll still be able to keep an eye with what's going on, even though they may be working on another patient. Another thing that you could do is you could put your patient in a recovery cage, and then you could put the Vetcorder either under a jacket or a blanket, or and then put a tablet or a phone on the outside of the cage and then be watching while you're prepping and working on something else. During COVID, we did have some clinics that were actually taking their Vetcorder out into the parking lot and doing curbside check-ins. And then they had someone that was in the front of the clinic that was watching on their cell phone. So that's certainly something you could do. Or if you had a patient that was in isolation, you could continue to keep them hooked up on the Vetcorder and be watching from a device in the front of the clinic. So we were at a trade show recently, and we had a gentleman come up to us, and he commented, "I couldn't believe I was upstairs in the building, and all at once my Vetcorder started working on my phone on my Monitor Vitals app because they were doing a procedure down below, and because I forgot to log out of my app, I was seeing what was going on with the procedure." So I had that experience at an emergency clinic that's near here, where the doctors have a second story office that is up on the second floor, and they have windows that are overlooking their triage area. So they're able actually to set up in the office and watch on their cell phones while their patient is recovering below. So that is something that they're able to do. Now, it will vary depending upon the walls and the setup in your practice, so it may not work everywhere, but in a lot of situations it does. So do you guys have any other questions on the Bluetooth or anything so far? If not, if you look in the lower right-hand corner on your Vetcorder, you are going to see a PI and a number. So that is your perfusion index. And that deals with fluid movement at the site where you have your SpO2 sensor attached. So right now, my perfusion index is a little bit lower than what it normally is, probably because my finger is cold. So we've got super cold temperatures here in Wisconsin, and my office has a lot of windows. So what you want to shoot for is a perfusion index that's greater than 1. So just to show you what happens, so now I've got a 1.2, which is perfectly fine. But I want to show you what happens when I move it back to where my finger is fatter and my sensor is having a harder time reading through that thicker tissue because my finger is fatter and there's also some interference with the bone. So now my perfusion index is going less than 1. So if that ever happens where your SpO2 reading is lower than what you think it is or it should be, reposition your sensor, and then if your perfusion index and your SpO2 readings go up, it probably was a positioning issue with that sensor, or the sensor was either too tight, too loose, not in a very well perfused area, or your patient was cold. So now I'm going to remove my sensors, and I'm going to show you guys what you can do with the other app. So what I want to make sure that I do is swipe close that Monitor Vitals app. Just as a reminder, one person can be attached or connected and paired to the app at a time. So if you're in a situation where you have multiple people that have downloaded the apps to their phones or a device, just make sure that if they're going to be switching who's in surgery or working with that particular Vetcorder, make sure that they close out of the app on their device so that someone else can go in and use the app on their device. So when I'm at the home screen, I'm going to select the blinking arrow on the right-hand side of the monitor, and then I am going to select the upload icon. When I do that, there's a little Bluetooth symbol that's shooting out on my screen. And now I'm going to go to my iPhone and I'm going to open up the Vetcorder Connect. That is the white tile with the two interconnecting circles. When I do that, it brings me over to a screen that shows me available Vetcorders, and then it says view offline data. So I am going to connect to my Vetcorder. And then it's going to bring me over to a blue and white screen. And then you should see a little animal head in the upper right-hand corner. Now, if you guys do name a particular patient, what you'd want to do is you want to click on that animal head, and then all of your named patients will drop down on the right-hand side, and you can select the particular patient that you're looking for. If I did under the guest mode, I'm just going to select guest, and then it's going to take me back to all of the guest daily check recordings that I have. If I see a downward facing arrow, I'm going to select that downward facing arrow, and then I'm going to start seeing a circle that starts syncing. So what's happening is my recording that I took earlier is actually moving over from my Vetcorder over to my phone. And then it'll take a couple seconds, and then once that arrow is pointed in the right-hand position, like it is now, I'm going to open that up, and then there is my recording that I took, and then you'll see a box with an arrow in the upper right-hand corner. I'm going to select that, and then I get a little pop-up, and it's going to say, do I want to save it to an album, or do I want to share it? Now, if you're using this on a personal cell phone, I would not save it to an album because that will add to your memory. So I'm going to select share, and then it's going to bring up all the different share mechanisms. So if you have Yahoo or Gmail or Outlook, I'm going to select Outlook. And then it's going to bring up and it's going to ask me, who do I want to send it to? So I can type in the doctor's email. I can type in the pet parent's email. I can type in the email address to send things to attach it to my practice management software. And then once I've got my email selected, I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to look. If it says name is guest, look at the measurement time that's down below. And then you can look back at your surgery schedule and you can say, okay, at 10 o'clock, I was monitoring Fluffy Smith. And then you can go to where it says name and guest, and you can delete that. And then you can type in the actual name of the patient, Fluffy Smith, before you send it, so the proper name is on there. So then if you're ready to send it, you can go ahead and press send. And then if you have multiple recordings of daily checks that you need to do the same thing, as far as touching the arrow, hitting that box with the box with the arrow, opening it up, and doing the exact same steps with all of your daily check recordings. And then once you're done with that, you can hit the back arrow, and then you can select the three little dashes in the upper right-hand corner. When I do that, it's going to bring me over to the other types of recordings, and then I can select my ECG recorder. When I select my ECG recorder, then it's going to bring me over to my ECG recordings, and then I can select my downward arrow and do the box with an arrow, and then do the exact same thing as far as sharing that and sending it. So if you guys ever get a message that says, please update your CheckMe, what does that mean? Well, it means that you're either in the wrong app for what you want to be doing, or you have too many apps that are currently open with your Vetcorder app. So if you ever see that, go ahead and swipe all of your Vetcorder apps closed, and then go back in to the one that you really want to be in. So if you remember that Monitor Vitals is when you want to mirror when you're in Monitor Vitals and you're actually monitoring, and then the Vetcorder Connect is what you want to use when you want to upload your saved recordings that you've taken. So just a heads up on that. Because we have so many calls or so many service tickets for an update check me message, we actually have a little training video about that that's on our support website. So when we are done with the training, I will send you guys an email with a link that takes you over to our support website. So what will you find on our support website? You'll find a list of frequently asked questions. You will also find a copy of our manuals. You will also find a list with our training videos. And then you will also find a little gray button in the lower right-hand corner. If you guys ever needed to start a support ticket or you have a question that you can't find on our support website, you can click on that little gray button and then a box will appear and you can type in whatever your question or your issue is that you're experiencing with the Vetcorder. So the Vetcorder Pro and the Red Case have a 12-month warranty against manufacturer defects, and accessories are warranted for 6 months against manufacturer defects. So what's a manufacturer defect? Well, let me tell you a few things that are not manufacturer defects. Accidentally dropping the monitor in the sink or a bucket of water, that is not a manufacturer defect. Accidentally slicing one of the cables with a laser or a scalpel, that is not a manufacturer defect. That would be an unfortunate incident. So some of the things that you can do to prolong the life of your monitor and your cables. If you guys are using this in a dental procedure or an emergency type situation that might be wet or messy, what I would recommend that you do is put a clear gallon Ziploc bag over the face of the monitor to protect it so it doesn't get any droplets or sprinkles of any liquids that might be in the area. You could also put the monitor under a towel or a blanket and then be watching the monitor on your phone or a tablet so that you can see what's going on while your Vetcorder is protected. If you are using this for a dental and you're going to turn your patient, what I would recommend you do is quickly remove your SpO2 sensor and your ECG clips by actually depressing the clips, removing them. Turn your patient and then reattach them. And the reason that you want to do that is because if you turn your patient while the sensors are attached, that's going to twist or torque your cables, and that will lead to the wires that are inside of those cables breaking down sooner than what you want. The other thing that you don't want to do is when you're done and you've cleaned, you don't want to hang your clips on a hook on the side of the wall or on the side of a cabinet, because that'll create stress points in those cables and your sensors will wear down sooner than what you want. Another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to wrap them tightly around the monitor and store them like so, because that'll create more stress points. So when you're done, it's perfectly fine to leave the cables plugged in. For cleaning, what we recommend is take a couple drops of alcohol, put it on a soft cloth, a 2x2, a 4x4, clean out on the inside of the ECG and the SpO2 clips, and then also with the tip of your temperature cable. You do not want to spray anything on the face of the monitor like a cleaning solution. We've had some issues recently where people have been doing that, and that is not something that you want to do. You also don't want to get any liquids into any of the open ports. So that's why it's really important that you protect those ports and those open areas with either a clear plastic bag. We've had clinics that have told us that they put their monitor in one of the cell phone pouches to protect it as well, which is a good idea. So if you are removing your cables, make sure too that you're grabbing from the silver cube and just pulling straight out. You don't want to twist or torque those cables when you're pulling them out, because there's little teeny pins that are inside of the monitor. So just grasp and pull straight out, and that works best as well. So if you've cleaned your monitor and you're done and you're going to store it temporarily until you need it the next time, what I would recommend doing, leave the cables plugged in, lay your monitor flat, and just drape the cables around the monitor. What some people will do is they'll put it on a Mayo tray, a Mayo stand, or those little clear plastic shoe bins works well too. You can set the monitor in the center and then just loop the sensors around and lay it flat and put a lid on it. That just think about where you're putting the monitor. I was in a clinic, and when we were done doing training, they put their monitor like on the top of one of those 3-tiered plastic filing cabinets that was at the corner of a desk. And I'm like, please don't put that there, because somebody's going to come around the corner and they're going to knock it off. So just put it somewhere where it's out of the way, or a flailing dog or an animal that's going to come by and knock it on the floor. So just a heads up on that. So what, any other questions on the monitor so far? So I am going to hit my orange button, and I'm going to go back to that second screen. So when I'm back at the second screen, if I click on my review icon, that will take me over to where I can look up recordings that I've taken. So if I click on the stethoscope, that's going to take me over, and then I can choose guest, and then I can look at all of my daily check recordings. I can select one, and if I want to replay it, I can hit the triangle, or I can hit the trash can to delete it. So that's how you would do an individual deletion. There's also a bulk deletion that you can do. So if I hit my back button, I'm now going to go into my settings or my tools. When I click on that, that's going to take me over to where it says general. If I click on general, here is where I can change the date and time, since I know you guys are in different time zones. So if you click on that, on date and time, you can change the date if that's wrong. If you hit the arrow, that's going to take you over to where you can change the time, and it is military time, so just a heads up on that. So you can hit the plus or minus to change, and then once that's done, you can hit the arrow, and that'll get you back. If you click on the ECG length, here's where you can change whether you want 30, 60, or 90 seconds for that ECG recording. So you would hit the arrow to change the time, and then once you have the time that you want, go ahead and hit yes. And then underneath that is ECG bandwidth. If you are working with a little kitty cat or below, if you guys do any exotics, you may want to switch that bandwidth over to wide mode when you're working with the smaller cat and below, and that will make it more sensitive. And always make sure that you're applying plenty of alcohol at the site where you're working with the clips. Sometime on those little kittens or cats and below, you may want to do that lead too with putting the white clip under the front right armpit, and then the red clip you can actually put, right above the lower rear left paw, so that you're creating a longer line. And then if you arrow down to the next page, here's where you can do a bulk deletion, and you can erase all data. So there, you can have about 90 some daily check recordings in there in the guest mode, and then you can have 12 different named patients in there before you have to delete them. So just a heads up on that. If I hit my X and I get back to that main screen, if you click on volume, if you have 3 bars, if you touch your volume, that's going to do away with the sound. And then if you hit it 1, 2, or 3 times, that's how you would change your volume level that you have. Underneath that is your unit of measurement, either imperial or metric. If you arrow down to the next page, if you guys are ever having an issue with your Bluetooth, just check to make sure that that circle on the Bluetooth is pointed on the right hand side. That means that your Bluetooth is turned on. We do have some facilities that can't use the Bluetooth, so they are able to turn it off. If you click on the About icon, that is going to tell you what your serial number is on your Vetcorder, and it's also going to tell you the current software version. So make sure that you guys have registered your warranty. I think both of you guys have. So if we have an update, we would send a software update information to the email that's on file for the warranty registration. And how you would do the update is you would use that white charging cable for the Vetcorder, and then you would plug the one end into the top of your monitor, and then the other end actually gets plugged into a Windows-based computer, so either a desktop or a laptop, and then we send you the link and a password, and it takes you over to our website, and then we also give you the instructions. So it literally takes just a couple of minutes to do. It's very simple, but it's nice to know that if we do change anything on the inside of the monitor, that we can get those updates out to clinics that already have it in their hands. So I don't know of anything that's coming up, but if we have one, we will send out those emails, and then we also would post that on our website as well. So if you guys are done with your procedures and you're determining whether or not you need to charge it again, just press that orange house button when you're back at the main screen. It looks like I have about 60% of my battery left. So I'm going to hit my orange button to get back, and then I'm going to press and hold down that power button until I see that black circle disappear. And that means that my monitor is completely turned off and it's not draining any power. So make sure that you guys don't leave your monitor plugged in for extended periods of time or overnight. If it's 2 o'clock and you're done with procedures and you feel like it needs to charge, plug it in for a couple hours, and then just make sure that you unplug it before you leave to make sure that it's not plugged in for an extended period of time. We did have some issues in certain parts of the country where there were some power surges, and there were some units that got zapped because they weren't plugged into appropriate outlets. So just a heads up with that. I know one of you guys is a 24-hour clinic, so I would, just kind of check to make sure that we're keeping an eye on that and we don't leave it plugged in for long periods of time. So again, if you guys have any questions, you can call us at 844 Vetcorder, and then you can choose service if you have a service issue or a question, or you can jump on the website and look to see if any of the questions is answered there. Do you guys have any other questions on the Vetcorder Pro before I move over to the Doppler? All right. So then I will go over the Doppler unit. So awesome. Faith, do you have any other questions on the Vetcorder Pro before we talk about the Doppler? All right. All right. So the Doppler unit. Now, have you guys used Doppler in your practice before, or do you have a lot of people that have used Doppler before? So just to go over what is all included in your Doppler box that you got. So obviously you have the Doppler unit. So there is a little black box that all of your pieces should have come in. So you got this nice little handy carrying case. So there is a set of headphones that come with that. You have your Svig. You have a bottle of gel. You've got your charging cable and a cube. This charger is different than your Vetcorder monitors. So please put a little flag tape on there and put which monitor that this goes for, because it's different than your Vetcorder. And we've had too many clinics that have actually plugged the wrong cables into their Vetcorder units. And with some of the units, unfortunately, they pushed in the charging mechanism because they tried too many times or forcefully. So just a heads up on that. So go ahead and label all of your charging cables with what particular unit those cables work with. Now you also have 5 assorted cuffs that are in your box. And then the standard flat probe that comes with the Vetcorder looks like this. And then there is also a pencil probe that is available for clinics that have selected that works with teeny tiny patients. And I believe that you guys just got the flat probe, if I am remembering properly. But if you do ever feel like you wanted to add an additional probe, that can be done. So just a heads up on that. So always make sure and liberally apply gel at the site where you are attaching your probe. So to turn your monitor on, there's a nice handy dandy little button on the right hand side which turns your monitor on. You'll notice that the monitor has a touch screen, so you're able to drag the volume and turn it up and down. Obviously, if you're working with a fractious cat or a patient that you don't want to freak out, please feel free to plug in the headphones into the monitor so that you can hear it and keep your patient, calm and relaxed while you're doing this. There is also an enable button which you can touch and drag, which will turn the probe on and off so that you can hear it. So if you're having trouble with that, just make sure and take like a little microfiber cloth and wipe that clear, because if you are touching it too many times, if you have any like oil or finger, gunk that's gotten on there, that will interfere with you being able to move that button over. So this is a touch screen and it's also digital. So it was manufactured and assembled in Wisconsin, and if it ever needs to be serviced, that's also where it would be sent if you have any service issues. So the one beautiful thing about this unit is the probe attachments have a little quick connect on them, so you can put them on and off of your monitor. And we have also put this nice little shrink wrap on here to strengthen a stress point in other monitors that are on the market. So if you ever do have an issue with your sensor, you wouldn't necessarily need to send your monitor in if the issue is just with the sensor. So the sensor itself has been reinforced. And there's a nice little curve that's on here and a little dot so that you know exactly where to put the gel when you're putting it on your patient. So if you're working with a cat or a dog, you can generally just wet and part the fur with some saline or some water. And you don't necessarily have to shave. Some clinics tell us that they do, but if you're just wetting and parting that fur, on the back rear leg or the paw right above kind of where that divot is, if you put that dollop of gel on where your black dot is, and then once you've selected the proper size cuff based on the patient that you're working with, and apply that cuff, you can then apply your gel, put it on your patient. And what you want to make sure that you're doing when you're putting that probe down is you want to be grasping it from the side of your probe. So I'm actually going to put that gel on here. And then I am going to turn my monitor on and enable my probe. And I didn't clean off my sensor there. All right. So now I'm going to put this on my wrist just so you can hear that sound, and I'm not even touching my black probe. I have my finger on the cable, but I'm going to show you what happens, and I only have my volume at about a third. So I'm going to press down. So now I'm occluding that sound because I've got my finger on the top of the sensor, which I don't want to do. So now, there we go. So now my sound is back. So if I have got that sound, I am going to, and I've got my cuff in place, I'm going to inflate, I'm going to pump up my sphig until I can't hear that sound anymore. And then once I trip that trigger on my sphig, I'm going to be listening for when that sound comes back again. So it's easy, but if you have a technician that hasn't done a lot of Doppler use before, they may have some trouble. Most of the calls that we get from clinics that are having an issue, it's because they are pressing too hard on the sensor and they're occluding the sound, or the cuff size that they've chosen might be too big or too small. So those are some pointers that I would offer to you guys. Do you have, and then I'm going to turn I turned my probe off, and then I'm just going to wipe off the probe with a tissue to get that, excess gel off of there. So those would be the main points on the Doppler. There is an automatic shut off on the monitor where if you're not using it, it will automatically turn itself off within a minute. So just a heads up on that. But if you want to turn it off. Oh, the other thing I forgot to point out is there's a little battery icon here. So on a fully charged battery, the monitor will last for 6 to 7 hours. And then it does take several hours for it to recharge. Currently, you can use this particular unit while it's plugged in, but that may not be something going forward. At this point in time, it is. So if you want to turn the monitor off, you're going to press and hold down that power button. And then when you do, there's a little pop-up that says power off. And then I'm going to hit that. And then if the screen goes blank, that means it's not draining any more power on the battery. So I can remove my quick connects from the monitor, and then I can go ahead and I can put the monitor back into the case. That way if it's in the case and it's in that nice padding, I can make sure that it's not going to get bumped or dropped. So that is the Doppler. Do you have any other questions on the Doppler, Faith? So as far as the awesome, if you do have any other questions, the warranty on the on this on the Vetcorder on the Doppler is 1 year on the unit, the sensor and the charging cable and cube have a 6-month warranty. And then the SFIG has a 5-year warranty. So just a heads up on that. Those warranties are a little bit different than the traditional Vetcorder monitor. So we are glad that you guys have one of the Dopplers in your pocket too. Feel free to reach out if you do have any other questions, and we appreciate your time on the training today. Thank you. You have a good day as well. Stay warm.